Are you someone who tries to drive while distracted by your phone? Someone who props it on the steering wheel or peeks down at it for a glance? Or just scrolls and scrolls? If so, you could be the next person to get into a fender bender, get a ticket, veer off the road, or even cause a crash that kills you or someone else. Enough already. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.
Welcome to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while paying way too much attention to burly side characters. Hey HBs! The bonus feed this week is going to feature a roundup of what we've been reading outside of the podcast for the past few months. Within that, Sabrina gushes about the Human Pets of Talon series, and I do a not-so-quickie on Blood Fever by Karen Marie Moning. It was a late recording, so we're a little delirious, and I have a feeling that only made things better. At the very least, we had a lot of fun. That's this Friday on Patreon and our Apple Podcast subscription. This week, we've got some amazing patrons to shout out. Thank you for joining the community, you wonderful HBs. Welcome to Kate's, Amy, Sydney S., Morgan L., Nanine C.O., and Vanna. Today, we're starting the second half of Devil in Spring to finish out our St. Vincent's Day celebration. When we left you last week, our couple was in the middle of their illicit midnight rendezvous. Here's part 3 of 4 of Devil in Spring by Lisa Kleypas.
Well, hello. Long time no see, Mel. Halfway through an episode.
Hey, listener. It's 2 weeks later for us. Look, I forgot I had a kid conference, and that cut into our recording time, and then life shit, and trips were had, and, food was eaten, and fun was enjoyed.
I don't remember how much we talked about in the last episode. The fact that, this is just a long episode. We're not even 50% of the way through the book right now, I don't think.
Frankly, no regrets. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely no regret.
However, so today, listener, I decided to try and listen to whatever we have left today, and then I figured out I had no idea where we fucking stopped last time.
And then the worst part is I had made a note in my notes, surrounded by quotes, and there were it was a highlight, and there were notes, and Melody was like, "Hey, where were we?" And I was like, "I got you, baby."
I got you.
And I sent a screenshot
of a quote.
And then Mel was like, I missed this, by the way, because I was off doing other things. Mel responded, "Wait, but I'm listening to the audiobook. I can't search this.
I can't word search it. It's fine."
So...
And then she wasn't able to get back to me, and I just listened to, roughly 75% of the book again. And again, no regrets.
Oh, and the best part of this is I haven't even looked at this book or my notes since we last recorded.
Yeah.
So...
Well, and listener, since we last recorded, I'm going to have a lot more and different knowledge about the Ravenels in general, because I proceeded in the past 2 weeks to mainline every single book in this series.
Does that mean that you read West's book? You've already read West's book.
I've read, well, no.
Kind of.
I only read West's book like 75% the first time I read
I'm
West's
just
book.
reiterating that I'm taking full control of this podcast in my brutal grip. And we are we're doing a West book at some point.
No, and you know what? I'm looking forward to it. A lot of it, honestly, is because I became a gardener since I read it the first time. And so like West is a different level of hot for me. Melody.
God. West, you beautiful bastard.
It's different this time.
Wait, so if you read the rest of the books, does that mean that you know which book I think we should do for St. Vincent next year?
West's book, right?
No.
What?
Oh, never mind.
No, the bastard son is not St. Vincent's.
Isn't he?
No. The bastard son is a Ravenel bastard, you dingus.
Devil in disguise?
Yeah, he's a Ravenel. He has nothing to do with St. Vincent, and I am really mad at you for besmirching his name, frankly.
I thought...
You did a bad on that one. No, he's West's
hang on. I haven't
half-brother.
read it. Hang on. You need to back the fuck off.
I won't.
Because I haven't read any of these books since 2021.
Frankly, Sabrina, I don't care. I will come at you however I want in my defense of the one and only Sebastian the Lord St. Vincent, okay?
I thought he was a St. Vincent baby. Wait,
No.
but I thought, isn't the guy in the next book also a Ravenel bastard?
What? What's the book after this is West's book.
The book before this is the one I was thinking about. The doctor lady and him. Isn't he a Ravenel of some flavor?
He is the Ravenel bastard.
Yeah. We're not talking about the same book then.
What fucking book are you talking about, dude?
Devil in Disguise.
I'm pretty sure I read it. Hold on. I'm so mad right now. Honestly, I'm not mad at you even. It's because I've just watched a really emotional, pivotal scene that is the tragedy of fiction that lives rent-free in my head.
I was just going to say, like, I don't know how much of this you're cutting out, but the look, listener, if this doesn't get cut out, the look that Melody just gave me, like, I'm glad that she stated, I'm not even mad at you, actually, because, like, I did have a moment, like a trigger response of, like, I'm just not allowed to talk anymore.
No. No, not at all. Not at all. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Apparently I stopped at chasing Cassandra. So maybe I am wrong. Oh, whoa.
Wow.
Let's see what's going on here. Hold on. So Lady Merritt Sterling.
Mel was about to throw our entire podcast relationship
and our relationship in general
on the fucking bonfire of fuck it all.
Yeah.
Like,
in defense of Sebastian the Lord St. Vincent, and frankly, I still stand by that. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But I am wrong.
You are so wrong.
But I'm super fucking wrong.
I can't believe you just gaslit me about a book you haven't even read before. You bastard.
I was so sure, too. I was so sure.
I was also so sure. I was like, I'm like 99.9%.
So you're talking about Keir.
Yes.
Keir McRae, who I've never met him before. I don't recall him coming up and chasing Cassandra. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because none of us have ever met him before.
Have we met Lady Merritt Sterling? The strong-willed young widow? Or does she just, is this book just like popping up out of the fucking mist, Lisa Kleypas?
I don't remember those kinds of
Look, man,
details.
you're a fully magical being, but there are some limits, okay?
I do remember, though, that you just fucked me up. I remember enough that you had me second-guessing the limited memory that I have of life and books that I've read before. I was so certain, and I was so proud of myself for remembering.
Well,
and you came
watch
in
me borrow
like
this.
a goddamn wrecking ball. You fully Miley Cyrus'd all over me. and broke down the walls of me thinking that I got something right in my brain.
Yeah, I guess I thought there were only 6 books in this series. Are there
there's
more
7.
than 7? So 7 is it. Mm-hmm. 7 is the ultimate Ravenel.
Yes.
Okay. Well, look, maybe I'll meet the next St. Vincent for next year. Who knows if we're doing that? But according to Sabrina, like, it's her podcast now, and I owe that to her even more in this moment. So
actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna guilt the hell out of you. We're doing West's book. We're fucking doing Devil's Daughter at some point.
That's right. And you know what? I will not have speed read and not read the last, 20 or 30% before we record. I will have read it more than once when we record.
Yeah, you're probably going to have
different
read
episode.
You're probably going to have read it like 4 or 5 times because now he's a gardener. And you're like, that's so sexy.
Very likely, honestly. And not only is he a gardener, he's like a rebel who got his shit together. You know, he's a lieabout who got his shit together, and like, what is sexier than that?
We literally just recorded the listener. We've recorded like 3 other episodes since we last recorded this one, and like we just recorded Highlander Boys, Maya Banks, like all 3 of those books, and West is a great example. He's a 3rd book where like it's a good book, but like having the context of every book that leads up to his book, it's a better book. In fact, it's a phenomenal book. In fact, I don't know. Some
people
genius,
might say.
Enlightened people out there might say that it's one of the best books, you know? It might say that he could be a top 3 Lisa Kleypas hero, even though all of people who voted for Romancing the Data are wrong. Can't believe he was in the top 8.
Oh, I forgot about that sick burn. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. The minute he came up, I was like, those people are wrong.
All I know is that Sebastian, the Lord St. Vincent, won. And that is, so the universe like makes sense to me, you know?
That's fine.
That's how I feel.
I knew he wasn't going to be number 1 because people are wrong and people are entitled to wrong opinions.
Yeah.
But like, that's fine. It just means more West Ravenel for me. However, 8? Okay, anyway, we're not here to talk about West Ravenel.
I loved a Reese Winterbourne too. Now I know about Reese Winterbourne.
Winterbourne is great. Winterbourne is great. I would have accepted him in the top 4. Okay.
And Tom Severin, that
Tom Severin is also
king.
Really great. Okay.
He is an autistic king.
Everyone's fine, okay? West Ravenel is a beautiful, sweet baby angel who deserves to be protected at all costs.
Yeah.
And I love him with every fiber of my soul. Anyway, we're not here to talk about
Pandora Ravenel.
Yes, she's wonderful.
And right now she's on a settee of some sort. Okay.
Yeah, listener, we fucked up because we had to end like on a fucking dime. It was not like let's finish. It's not a let's finish this thought and then like stop. It was like Michael popped his head in.
And he never does that. He popped his head into my office to be like, we have kid conference ? And I was like, is Wednesday ? And then it was all over.
Yeah. Like Mel looked at me and like I heard her be like, no, I'll be there. And then I looked at her and I was like, well, I guess we'll figure out a reschedule.
Deuces.
And it just ended. Listener, literally, we're about to see one of the hottest finger bang orals on a SETI ever.
Ever.
Terrible time.
Ever.
Cut it off.
Because so they're getting close. He now knows about her inner ear injury. They're really, getting to know each other, and he wants to show her what an actual rendezvous is all about, okay? He wants to give her the context of what makes a rendezvous special at a ball or another social event where you're not supposed to see each other naked. And, they're making out hard. At one point, she, straddles him.
Even before that, though, one of the funniest things is he's basically telling her about it, and he has a hard-on, and she can see the hard-on now. And she's like, but Mr. Hayhurst wouldn't have returned to the ballroom with a protrusion like that. How do you deflate it? And he said, I usually distract myself by thinking about the latest analysis of foreign securities on the stock exchange. That usually takes care of the problem right away. If that fails, I picture the queen. And then Pandora was all of us ADHD kids. Yep. When she went, really? I wonder what Prince Albert used to think about. It couldn't have been the queen. They had 9 children together.
Oh, yeah.
As Pandora continued to chatter, Gabriel just starts getting sexy, listener. And she is just continuing. She's like, do you suppose it was something like educational reform or parliamentary procedure? And he's like,
he's like, I'm going to stop you with my tongue.
That's enough. That's enough. Like, literally, I felt so seen by Pandora so many times. How many times have I wrecked a sexual experience?
Oh, God.
By just going off on the most random, don't ask me how I got there. You won't understand.
And one of my favorite things about this book, like, it made me cry last week, or 2 weeks ago, whenever, man, in the last couple of episodes. There are moments like these when it's just so clear that, like, this is the perfect situation for her. Because, like, later on, they're at their honeymoon and he's, like, all up on her on the side of this ship. And he's like, what are you thinking about? And she's like, a rhombus. And he's like, the shape? And she's like, yeah, because the island is whatever. He's, like, kissing up all on her neck and she just keeps on going off about rhombuses. And he just smiles and holds her tighter and loves her for all of her weirdness.
Big swoon.
Big swoon. Fucking
Loving
swoon.
you, not in spite of your quirks, but, like, embracing your quirks, you know?
Yeah. It's what's it called? It's a something, not a squirrel. It's a something, not a bit. It's a feature, not a bug. There we go.
Oh my God. I'm a program. I literally say that. I had no idea what you were trying to say, Melody.
I don't blame you. I came up with squirrel at first.
I literally said that to my friend last week. We were a bunch of programmers hanging out in person last weekend. And I literally looked him dead in the face and said, it's a feature, not a bug. Like, I can't I had...
Hey, HBs. Imagine if Succession was a Little Mermaid retelling. Then set it in a theme park. If that sounds as amazing to you as it does to me, you need to check out Marin in the Moonlight by A.E. Merriweather. Here's the description. Marin Vandersea has had enough of her overachieving, disapproving family, so she does something crazy. Instead of starting her second semester of grad school, she drives straight to Revel Point, the iconic theme park owned by the Reeve family, to finally be where her people are. While there, she works as her favorite Revel princess, Rose Red, and develops an insane crush on her Prince Charming. Things go swimmingly until Marin saves the very handsome and very drunk Ethan Reeve from drowning after hours. Ethan is in over his head. After a series of family tragedies, the prodigal son and notorious playboy was named interim CEO of Revel Point. Not ever planning on returning to the theme park, he doesn't know or care much about his family's multi-billion-dollar company. But when Ethan discovers his late brother's passion project may be on the chopping block, he decides to take action. To make sure his brother's last wish is fulfilled, he turns to the only person he knows who loves Revel, the gorgeous adult reveler who saved his life, Marin Vandersea. When Ethan offers Marin the opportunity of a lifetime, she takes it. But she's in for an emotional roller coaster as she can't stop thinking about Ethan. And while he may not be the Prince Charming she's always dreamed of, it is possible he could give her a happy ending. If you like books that include chosen family, a heroine who finds her voice, and a lot of witty banter, this is the romance for you. I'm putting buy links in the show notes so that you can pick it up at your earliest convenience. Then, look forward to the second book in the series, Summer in the Snowfall, which comes out this September.
Are you someone who tries to drive while distracted by your phone? Someone who props it on the steering wheel, or peeks down at it for a glance, or just scrolls and scrolls? If so, you could be the next person to get into a fender bender, get a ticket, veer off the road, or even cause a crash that kills you or someone else. Enough already. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.
So they're doing sexy times.
She's straddling him and she's like wiggling around. And he's like, you really need to cool it with the wiggling. And she's like, I don't know if you've ever sat on a goddamn croquet mallet before, but like, it's not comfy.
Mm-hmm.
And he moves her off to the side.
At one point, he's trying to get himself under control. And she's like, are you thinking about the queen right now? Because if you are, it's not working.
No.
He's just like, no, I'm not thinking about the queen. I'm thinking about the fact that your wet center is like right there, bud.
And he's like, Pandora, it doesn't matter what I think about when you're like hot and on me, you know? Like I could think about any number of things, but it all goes away when it's you. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they're making out. And then finally she asks him about what makes him a bad person. And he pauses and she says, does it have something to do with your mistress? And he goes, oh, heard about that, huh? And she's like, yep, have, absolutely.
It's the ton's worst kept secret, actually.
Yeah. And so she says, I don't judge you for it, you know? And he's like, yeah, it's all very civilized, but in this case, I feel really fucking bad because I take the marriage sacrament seriously. And I've never had a lover or a mistress who's married before. But like Nora Black really did it for me. And he says like not many women can satisfy him. And she's like, why is that? What do you ask them to do? And she's like, are there horns involved? Like what's happening over there? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, really, all I want is the woman to be available and willing and uninhibited.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm uninhibited. And then she's like, oh, why did I say that? That's so weird. What a weird thing to say when I'm not marrying him. And then he's like, well, that's good. Because like if we're married, there are apparently some things that like men shouldn't ask their wives to do. But if we're married, I would have to ask you to do them. She's like, well, if we were married, I think I would be open to that. But we're not getting married, so...
So he ends up carrying her up to bed because she still can't handle the dark, right? And like with her vertigo and everything. And so he carries her up to bed and puts her to sleep. And the next morning she realizes she's missing a slipper. And she's like, oh my God, they're all going to know. Everyone's going to know. Her lady's maid
notices that she's missing a slipper too. So it's like DEFCON most extreme.
So then she and Kathleen are talking though. And she's telling Kathleen all about like her feelings, and she says to her, whatever, like I care about him deeply, but like I want to keep my independence and I want to be with him, but I'd also be compromising my dreams to do that kind of thing. And she says, whatever I decide is going to feel like a mistake. I wish Lord St. Vincent were a warty old windbag. Then everything would be easy. Instead, he's odiously attractive and charming. It's like he's deliberately trying to make my life as difficult as possible. This is why I've never understood why people think the devil is a hideous beast with horns and a forked tail. No one would be tempted by that. By the way, Pandora, this is me speaking.
You're in the wrong
That's
chat.
not accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not accurate. But then Kathleen's like, you're saying Lord St. Vincent is the devil in disguise?
Ooh.
And she says he may as well be. He's made everything confusing. I'm like a goldfinch thinking, oh, that little cage looks so awfully nice with its gold bars and cozy velvet perch and that dish of millet seed. It might be worth having my wings clipped for that. And when the door latches shut, it will be too late. So she's like struggling. I love that she's like, I wish you were a warty old windbag. Yeah. I want him to be insufferable and
I also
awful.
love that she says that to his face multiple times in the book.
Multiple times?
It's so great.
She's like, you're too attractive.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
Are there any people who are bald in your family history? Like, help a bitch out. And then Kathleen says, hey, I'm not here to sway you about anything, but I do want you to think on one thing. No matter what you decide, you're going to have to compromise something. Nothing is going to be perfect. Just think about what you're willing to compromise and what you're not.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this book hit a lot of soft places, not in a bad way, but like, you know how you get to that point in your life where you realize like, you have to make decisions on what priorities are. You don't have like endless time and energy and things like that.
Yeah.
And like when Kathleen said that, I was like, well, fucking A, okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's fine. But like, that's what she's having to realize is like, she has to make compromise. She has to choose her priorities.
And it doesn't make her a bad person if she does compromise on things. In the past, she said like are hard lines, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Kathleen is like, all of us are kind of like scattered across the property today. So like do whatever you want. And Pandora's like, what do you think that Lord St. Vincent might be up to? She's like, I think he's down in his study. So like, you know, check it out. And as she goes wandering around, she goes to him to try and get her slipper back. Or that's the pretense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when he pulls her into the office, he like looks around to make sure nobody's around. And then he kisses her real good, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, hey, actually, I have something I want to talk to you about. Do you want to go walk in the garden with me? And she's like, yep, I absolutely will. And so when they're out there, he tells her all the research that he's done because fucking the Lord St. Vincent would always do as much research as possible to make your fucking dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
He got with a solicitor and he clarified for himself what happens when a woman gets married legally.
Yeah. Legal death.
Yeah, she's basically, according to the law, no longer an entity, to the point that if she tries to have anything of her own, the government looks at it as if she is stealing from her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so meanwhile, she is like, this is really sad and like it's confirming all of my things. And so I'm going to look at flowers while he's talking to me. And then I don't have to make eye contact with him and it'll be a little bit better. So she's trying to figure out what the meaning of primroses are.
Mm-hmm.
Did you remember this part, Sabrina? Out of curiosity?
No, I don't. I should. Don't we have primroses in our... Isn't that one of the flowers that you...
No, it was on the list though.
Mm-hmm.
No. No. That's not why. I just thought it was, a point of import, if you will. And it comes back later in the book. And so if you wanted me to catch you up on what happens with the primroses in this scene, I would be happy to.
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, tell listener, you know?
Yeah, I'll tell listener. That's really the person who's not on the same page as me, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's like trying to talk to her about all this legal stuff. And she's like, primroses, is that like innocence or is it whatever? And all of a sudden, he just blurts out, I can't live without you. And then there's like a pregnant pause. And he's like, that's the meaning of primroses. And she's like, what? How do you know that? And he talks about how his sisters were all into floral symbolism as if it's like a weird bad
flowers.
Thing. And meanwhile, he's just like memorizing it left and right. Methinks you might be more interested, Gabriel, than you say. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, so then he's like...
that was in fact a threat, Gabriel, to be clear.
So then he's like, look, I found a couple of workarounds. So as soon as your business transfers over to me, when we get married, I will put it in a trust for you, and then I will make you president of the company. Mm-hmm. And then you keep all your stuff. You can still earn a salary.
Yeah, like the loophole is any money that she earns as a salary is her money, basically. And the only thing is she can't legally sign contracts once she's gotten married because, again, she is not an entity.
No longer a person.
And a man has to do it for her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so she could hire a manager, essentially. And is this the scene where she ends up being like, that would work, but you would still have final say. If I did something you didn't like, you could stop everything. Yes. And he's like, well, yeah, but I wouldn't do that. And she's like, even if I was making stupid decisions, even if I made a decision that was going to, I don't even remember what her example
put my health in question, or you thought was like too dangerous or whatever.
He was like, well, in that instance, I would stop you.
Yeah, he's like, you can't ask me to not protect you. That's part of my job as husband.
Yeah, and she's like, and this is the problem. This is ultimately the biggest issue. Like, ultimately, we can talk about it, but you shouldn't have any say. Right. Like, you don't get the final word.
Right. And one of my favorite things in this scene is that she looks at him and she says, listen, what if when we signed the contract, you lost all of your legal standing, you lost all of your assets, you lost everything, and you could only spend money and make decisions at my leisure? And he's like, well, that's a ridiculous comparison. And she looks at him dead in his beautiful face and she says, the only difference is that in one instance, a woman loses everything, and in the other instance, a man does. And he's like, oh, sick burn.
He's like, this fucking blue stocking that I am obsessed with is setting my whole world on fire.
Yeah. So he tries to be like, well, on the one hand, that's true, but it's not as though you're losing everything for nothing. Like, you do get to be married to me. And like, he says, I'm not going to like beg like a pauper on the street or something classist like that. And basically being like, you're going to have such a good life with me. Don't you want more of that yummy stuff we did in the office last night? Like, you seem to enjoy it. I'm into it, you know? And finally, she's just like, the compromise is too far. Either way, it's not going to work out because one or both of us are going to be dissatisfied at some point with this arrangement.
This is an irreconcilable difference.
Yes. And then she runs away crying. And she spends the whole afternoon in her bed chamber.
Then she gets a note from Gabriel the next day.
Very important.
He's holding her slipper ransom.
That's right.
He has cut the little flippy bit off of her slipper and sent it to her and said if she does not make haste to the ballroom every hour that she does not appear, she will receive a new adornment of slipper.
Another adornment will be sacrificed.
And so she ends up going down there, and Phoebe's in there at the piano, and he's like, you're going to learn how to waltz. And she's like, I'm already pissed at you, and now you're going to do this humiliating thing to me in front of somebody by outing me? And he's like, whoa, one, I didn't tell Phoebe shit. Okay, Phoebe has no idea why you're not capable of waltzing. She knows she's here to play the piano. And two, just trust me. Trust me.
Hard to do, especially since, like, one of her thoughts in this scene is, like, up until this point, he's been so surprisingly caring and, like, gentle. And yet she shows up and he asks her to do the one thing that will break her heart and her ego and everything all in one go. So she finally is like, fine, fuck it, fine. And she looks at Phoebe and she says, I may as well tell you because I don't want you to think that my dancing is like a flailing octopus for no reason. And that is that I have an injury because of my dad and I have no balance. And she waits to see like judgment or pity in Phoebe's face. And there isn't. And then Phoebe looks at her and she says, I really like you, Pandora. Nothing's going to change that, especially not something like dancing. And she's like, okay, fine. So he tells her that they are going to learn how to waltz in the style of Sebastian, the Lord St. Vincent, and Evie, like what was in style when they were, the hot to trot couple. Because it's slower, it's got less pivots in it, and, there's less like whirly-gigging around.
What a good word.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And like they also have to stand closer so he has more like control over her center of gravity. And as they're going around, she will have these moments of vertigo where she thinks she's falling, but nothing is actually happening. And he's like, hey, feel my arm. Do you feel how like rock solid that is? I've got you.
You feel my sexy, sexy guns? They're going to keep you off that floor, baby.
Yeah, that's
Unless
right.
I put you there.
I mean, who
for
knows?
sexy reasons.
Yeah. But he's like, when you feel that way and you know that you can't trust your senses, trust me and I will keep us up and I will keep us going. And this is one of the most beautiful devices I've ever seen in a fucking romance novel. Fucking ever. Okay.
It was wonderful. Like this whole scene is just beautiful from start to finish. And then it's towards the end and she's looking up at him and she realizes In that moment,
Yes,
Pandora realized it would kill her not to have him.
Yes.
She might actually expire of heartbreak. She was becoming someone new with him. They were becoming something together, and nothing was going to turn out the way she'd expected. Kathleen had been right. Whatever she chose, it wouldn't be perfect. She would have to lose something. But no matter what else she gave up, this man was the thing she couldn't lose. And then she bursts out crying, and he's like, what the hell is happening?
Like,
Phoebe,
ugly
help
crying.
me. And Phoebe's like, dude, she is having some feelings. And he looks at her and he's like, you're crying because you want to marry me? Is that it? And she's like, no, I'm crying because I don't want to not marry you.
That's
and
right.
He's just like,
he's like, oh,
I'm so
yay.
confused.
He's so happy.
Are you someone who tries to drive while distracted by your phone? Someone who props it on the steering wheel or peeks down at it for a glance? Or just scrolls and scrolls? If so, you could be the next person to get into a fender bender, get a ticket, veer off the road, or even cause a crash that kills you or someone else. Enough already. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.
And then he gives her a big ol' honkin' smooch, and then she pulls away, and Pandora put her hands on his cheeks and stared at him woefully. What rational woman would ever want a husband who looks like you? And he's like, what's wrong with my looks? And she says, isn't it obvious? You're too handsome. Other women will flirt and try to attract your attention and chase after you forever. And he says, they've always done that.
Oh,
I won't even notice. And she's like, I will. And I'll hate it. You could at least try to grow fat or sprout some hair out of your ears or lose a front tooth. No, even then you'd still be too handsome. And he's like, I could develop a receding hairline. And she says, are there bald people in your family on either side? And he says, not that I know of. And she says, don't give me false hope then. Just admit it. You're always going to be handsome and somehow I'll have to find a way to live with it. Oh, God.
So she says, I will marry you, but I've got 10 million conditions. The first of which is that I will not say obey in our marriage vows. I will not say I will obey you. We can put another word in there or whatever. And so he's like, done. I will make sure that that gets gone. And you know what? St. Vincent would always bribe the Bishop of Canterbury to get obey out of your marriage vows.
It turns into a whole thing. So they essentially are coming together and like we see like a montage kind of set of scenes where they're basically getting ready for it. They were going to get married for like in a couple of weeks because he can't just run off to Gretna Green and because it'll be a scandal and they were already borderline scandal. They end up bringing
Plus
it down
they have to get that special dispensation from the Duke of Canterbury, I say. No, the bishop. I think it's the bishop. So like there's a bunch of shit like that. But then 2 weeks later, and I loved this because Gabriel realizes that everything is changing so fast that she needs something very familiar on the wedding day. And so they decide to have the wedding at her home at like the church on the grounds where she grew up so that she'll have like her comfort zone and her family and, you know, she'll be really comfy there. And like, that's the sweetest thing fucking ever, you know?
And then, listener, we see the scene.
Yeah.
This is so fucking funny to me. They're on the ship and her vertigo's not doing so hot.
Nope.
But they're on their way. And
also, she's mad she's there in regardless.
I don't need a honeymoon, Pandora said, glowering at the picturesque town rising steeply from the water. God. My board game has to be stocked in stores in time for the Christmas holiday. Anyone else in our circumstances would honeymoon for at least a month, Gabriel pointed out. I've only asked for a week. And she says, but there won't be anything to do. I'll try to keep you entertained, Gabriel said dryly. Spending a few days together will help us ease into our new life. Marriage will be a considerable change, especially for you. He lowered his mouth closer to her ear.
Yeah.
You'll be living in an unfamiliar house with an unfamiliar
man
who will be doing very unfamiliar things to your body. Where will you be? Pandora asked.
Oh, it's so good. And so they get to the hotel. The hotelier is like, would you like a full tour of the grounds? And while Gabriel is about to decline, Pandora like jumps up and down and claps her hands and is like, oh, yes, please. And so Gabriel is like thwarted again. Finally, he gets her upstairs. And so he is like, she's tired. She's like had a glass of wine or something. Like there's going to be no consummation tonight. And that is really sad. But like, I'm going to prevail.
Well, it's also so funny because her lady's maid and his manservant are there and they finally leave. And the lady said something. I don't remember exactly what. And he's like, her manner with you is too familiar. I've half a mind to dismiss her.
Yes. And I'm so glad you're. Yes.
Pandora. Ida is the Genghis Khan of ladies' maids, but she's very good at reminding me about things I tend to forget and finding things I've lost. Also, she told me I was a donkey-headed half-wit if I didn't marry you. We'll keep her.
Yep, we'll keep her. Maybe she needs a raise. Who knows?
Yeah, like we'll keep her forever. She's fantastic. She'll never be on the street.
Always
ever.
Golden in my eyes, frankly. So he thinks nothing's going down. And then she's like, can we just do this now? Like, can we just get this out of the way? Because otherwise I'm just going to be anxious until it's done. And he's like, yeah, I mean, definitely we can do that. But first I have a gift for you. And then she's like, is that a metaphor? And he's like, what? She's like, is that a metaphor? And he says, no. And he's like cracking up. And he's like, but you know what? Afterwards, you'll have to tell me if my lovemaking is a gift. But he gives her this double strand of pearls that sounds really pretty.
And it has Arcanthus scrolls on it because that's how he found her, was stuck in an Arcanthus scroll.
All those whirly gigs. Yeah. Ooh.
He says, I have a fondness for those Acanthus scrolls. They kept you in place just long enough for me to catch you. And she says, I think you were the one who was caught, my lord. And he says, you're captive for life, my lady.
Oh my God. These two.
Honestly, the only thing that would have made this scene better is if she was his lady wife, actually.
Sure. But
Just
that's basically it. That's basically it. They will have, they will have gotten that by now. That.
And even if they didn't, remember this, listener, lady wife. That's important.
Listen to it. Put it in your brain.
Put it in your brain.
Anyway, so then they get like totally undressed. And then she's like, whoa, lay down. I want to look at you. And so she like gets all up on his whole body. She's kissing on his torso. She's putting her fingers through like the hair on his chest and then the hair at his groin. And she's like, wow, this protrusion does not look much more menacing than all the little naked boys I've seen in my life. Like, this is different. He's like, I should hope so. And then she licks him like a lollipop and he almost dies. Yeah.
Baby's first blowjob.
Yeah. Like a mini one because he can't handle it. He doesn't want to spill outside of her womb or whatever. And so he gets her up and then doesn't he go down on her? Something happens.
There is, but the important thing to me specifically was at one point when they're like mid-consummation, she says, what should I do? And he just holds her and says, just hold me. Keep all the pieces of me together.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. And then at the end, she tells him when they're snuggling and about to fall asleep, she says, your lovemaking is a gift.
Oh,
they're so cute together. I love them.
Yeah.
So then basically the entire week, she's more than occupied. She
doesn't want to go
fuck
home.
it out the whole week.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't believe that we're only doing a week honeymoon. And he's like, Pandora? What the actual fuck?
Pandora, the Lady St. Vincent.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So they're back in London and she has a new footman, Drago, who... But actually, it's okay.
It's Drago.
Drago. Okay.
It's Drago.
And the way that, because the way that it's described in the book how his name is pronounced, I could not make heads or tails of it.
It's because nobody says it correctly.
Well,
he
and
says it's Drago.
Uh-huh.
Other people say Drago.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he's like,
the
no,
way it's the way it's described in the book, reading it is dragon without the N.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but my brain went Draga?
Yeah.
Draga.
No, he's talking
Drago
about...
Drago makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
He's talking about the A sound, and then the spelling is without the N. But yeah, okay. I can see how that would be confusing. So this is a special hire by Gabriel because this guy's not a footman, okay? He's worked at the club since he was 12.
He's a bouncer.
He's a bouncer. He is a man about town. He is a security guard. He's an investigator. Like, he is whatever the club needs him to be. And he knows every nook and cranny of London. And so Gabriel's like, look, I know it seems like you might be getting a demotion, but I promise you, like, this is a much more important job than anything else I could possibly give you. You are keeping my wife safe, and she is the most important person to me on this planet. And it's really, really cute. But he's he's also like this giant, like super burly dude.
Scenes where she's talking about him in his footman attire, and she's like, "This man is not a footman. Who the fuck is this dude?"
He's got a full beard, and she's like, "Footmen don't have beards. Footmen can't have beards." And Gabriel's like, "I mean," so she's like, "We have to get a new one. We have to get a new footman. I wanted a footman whose eyes twinkled like Father Christmas, okay? And Drago's eyes don't do any of the sort." And then he's like, "Yeah, okay, all right. I'll see if we can get another one, but I wonder if he's going to be really disappointed because he's always wanted a family." And I think he was really excited to move into the house
little shit.
and experience family life. And she's like, "Oh, I'll keep him."
Oh my goodness. So now we end up in like the intrigue part of the book because she is basically getting her board game all set up. And so she has decided that she's going to use this local Printworks, and she goes to meet with them and like talk with her. And while she's there, the woman has to go into the back for a minute. And when she goes back there to follow the lady, because she thinks of something just off the top of her head that is necessary to share right that very second.
No. The lady drops a piece of paper.
Oh.
And she thinks that the lady needs that piece of paper for whatever she's doing. And so she follows the shopkeeper and goes into the warehouse in the back. And by the way that the shopkeeper and this man she's talking to react, Pandora's like, "I'm really sorry. I think I've done something wrong. Was I not supposed to see this, or what's going on?" And the shopkeeper's like, No. You're great. Loving you so much. We might not be able to print your board game anymore, but that's totally cool because I'll give you a great recommendation. Goodbye. Never come back again. Thank you so much.
And when she gets back out to the carriage, she tells Drago what happened. And he's like, "Please hold." And then disappears into the mist for a second. And he's doing his big fancy bodyguard spy bullshit.
Yeah.
And when he gets back, he's like, "So weirdly enough, that warehouse is full of stuff to make bombs." And she's like, "Everything that you just described is also used for what is expected of them, though."
Yeah.
And he's like, not in that amount of stuff."
He's like, "You're right," because he's talking to Gabriel about it, and he's like, "You're totally right. These chemicals are supposed to be at a print shop, but there was something about the shopkeeper. There was something about like the ghostly pale hue she came out with when she bustled Pandora out. There was just like something wrong with the whole situation." And so he knows like a really good down low detective in the Metropolitan Police Force. But maybe he actually works for the Home Office. I don't know what Drago knows and what he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he's like, "I'll get this information to this guy and then we'll figure it out."
Are you someone who tries to drive while distracted by your phone? Someone who props it on the steering wheel or peeks down at it for a glance? Or just scrolls and scrolls? If so, you could be the next person to get into a fender bender, get a ticket, veer off the road, or even cause a crash that kills you or someone else. Enough already. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.
This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sac.edu to get started.
So the other thing that happens that's very important to me, Melody, is that she calls Drago, not yet. She calls Drago in and she's like, hey, bud, I don't think I know how to say your name. And he like tells her the dragon without the N thing. And then she's like, okay, all right. Well, let's see. This is perfect. How about I just start calling you Dragon? Because then everyone will know how to pronounce it. And everyone loves dragons. And he's like, I don't care if people love me. And she's like, are you sure? Like, I really want to call you Dragon. And he's like, no, that's not going to work. Yeah.
You let me call you Dragon? You don't have to wear livery anymore.
No, that's not it. That's not even it. No. Because she asks him if he wants to wear livery. And he's like, actually, I hate it. And so she just off the top is like, don't wear it outside then. You'll only have to wear it if like the butler says you do inside for like special occasions or whatever. But she says, footmen don't have beards. I think it's against the law. And he says, it's not against the law, my lady. And she's like, well, it's against tradition. And isn't that the same thing? And then she finally says, okay, fine. Look, if I can call you Dragon, then you can keep your face foliage. And he's like,
face foliage.
Yeah, it's really, that's a term used in the book. And then he's like, all right. And so now she calls him Dragon all the time. And that's going to come back in a way that I can't decide, like it's not like something that deserves to end up on Kink Watch, but it's close. It's like, is it Swoon Watch? I don't know what it would be, but it's like, that's something that just like hits you right in your, like all your feels. Yeah. Anyway, we'll chat about it later. So now when he comes back, he tells Gabriel all of this.
I probably should have reread the second half of this book just based on the little things that you've said.
Why?
Leading up to this point is like, you're talking about all these things and usually I'd be able to like have some idea of what you're talking about, but like I'm literally like, it feels like I'm just picking up the breadcrumbs of my own notes, you know?
Sure.
Like, I don't know where we're going. I just know that there's breadcrumbs and I'm just kind of following along with you and chiming in occasionally. Yeah. And so you say that and I'm like, I have literally no idea what you're referencing. Anyway.
So now Gabriel goes up to her after this printer fiasco. And she looks really nervous. She's dressing for dinner. And so really important. She is only in her stays and dressing situation and like bloomers or whatever. And he bustles that lady's maid right out and says that he can tend to his wife. Thank you so much. And she's like, we don't have time before dinner. And he's like, oh, well, First, he talks to her and he's like, hey, I really need you to be more careful out there because I'm scared, you know?
Yeah.
And
I got a bodyguard for you for a reason.
Yeah. Like you got to take Drago with you everywhere. Doesn't matter what's going on. Don't go into like back rooms without him, you know? And she's like, you know what? That is, I'm so sorry. There's another Drago thing I forgot to tell them. Oh, no. Oh, no.
I want Drago's book.
I want Drago's book, too. Anyway, when he's giving Gabriel the debrief on what happened at the printer, at the very end, Gabriel asks him, like, did you have any problems with her? Like, did she try to give you the slip? Did she argue with you about anything? And Drago looks at him and he says, no, she's a brick. And then walks out. And he's thinking about it on the way up to her room. And he's like, that is like a really
the
hugely
highest compliment.
Yeah, that's a high, and he's never ever heard it applied to a woman at all. And so the fact that he looks at Pandora this way is like really huge. And so, yeah, he goes up there and, you know, just chats with her, and she's nervous about it. And he's like, why are you like this? You know? And she's like, I really thought you would be mad. And he's like, no, but I do think maybe there should be some sort of punishment so you remember. Do you want to take over, Sabrina?
I don't remember any specifics. I just remember it being so cute because he's like, I'm gonna punish you. And she's like, what do you mean?
Punish me?
And he's like, with
sexy
deliciousness.
times. It'll be
And
sexy.
She's like, this isn't how you punish somebody. This isn't a punishment, Gabriel.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yes, it is. This is the way I punish you.
It's so
it's
good.
Just very cute. Well, and it's also like really special because he expresses to her, like, this is what I'm talking about when I say that I have these dark desires in the bedroom. Like, this is an example where, like, I want to dominate you, basically. Like, I want to be in control and I want you to do whatever it is that
And he's so nervous.
Request of you.
Yeah, he's so nervous because he actually doesn't tell her that out loud. That's all his inner monologue. And he like makes her come at first, and then he bends her over the bed, and he's like, oh my God, this is very sexy. And like, I'm very nervous about this because I don't know if she's going to be okay with it. But he brings her hands.
Ties up.
Yeah, he brings her hands behind her back to her lower back, and he ties her hands to the back of her corset. And like, it's still pretty loose or whatever.
It's
but
so
then
hot.
he goes to town on her, and she's like arching up to him. And so he's like, okay, it looks like all systems are go for her. And that's really exciting because, you know, he keeps on thinking like, I thought nobody could satisfy me, like, you know, Nora Black. But there's something even past.
He thought he was going to have a society marriage. He was going to have like a nice, prim, proper wife, and he needed to get his wiles out before because he's not somebody who, like, he's loyal to who he knew that when he got married, he was going to be loyal to that person because he just wasn't going to do it any other way. And so the fact that he got to marry somebody who he's so compatible with and who just accepts him for what it, like, exactly who he is. Because at the end, he's like, was that okay? Was that okay? And he was worried about it, and she was like, yeah, that was great.
Was it okay? It was way better than okay, but like, cool.
Yeah, it was fine. When do we do that again?
Yeah. But the other thing that I really liked is that he reflects back on his relationship with his mistress, and he's like, I didn't realize that, yes, our relationship was very satisfying in a lot of ways, but I didn't quite realize everything it was lacking until I experienced it with Pandora, because it's not just sexually satisfying. It's that like intimate connection and love, you know, that he didn't have with anybody else ever. Anyway, so the next night they're going to the theater with Helen and Mr. Reese Winterbourne. And at this theater, a bitch is making a scene. An England
Mrs.
Times
Black.
scene. Because she only does shit with her eyeballs.
Nora Black is there, and it's awkward. It's awkward.
She's like across the theater, and she won't stop like glaring at Pandora. Pandora has never seen this woman in her life. And I love her because she's like, oh, Helen, it looks like my propensity to like annoy people now goes past people I've actually met. This is incredible.
Well, and it's so cute because like Gabriel is trying to make it clear that like, leave my wife alone. So he's like doing like kissing her hand and like removing her glove.
I
like,
wish that you had reread this, Sabrina, because he does one of the things that makes
Is it a
you
palm
melt.
kiss?
It's a palm kiss.
I'm gonna go add that to mine.
It's a palm kiss. It's right in like, I think it says like the vulnerable part of her palm or something like that. It's, ugh. And that's not done in society. Okay, that is inappropriate. And he like slowly takes off her glove one finger at a time. And it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
So she manages to like watch the rest of the play, but she can tell Gabriel is still like pissed and distracted.
Yeah. And then on their way out, Mrs. Black actually confronts them. Like yeah. Because is she alone? Is Gabriel off? Yeah. Because she's going to meet some of Helen's friends.
Yeah. Yeah. They go out of the theater and Helen pulls her away because like it's going to take a while for the carriages to pull up or something. And when Helen pulls her away, Mrs. Black comes up to her and tells her that he's going to get bored of her, that he's come to her since they've been married. And Pandora just doesn't have the response that she's looking for. She's just like, oh, I guess that would be a worry, but like that didn't happen. Because if he did, he would tell me. And then afterwards, she looks at her and she says, hey, the past weeks must have been like really terrible for you. And I'm sorry. And then Nora Black loses her mind at that point because her blood is just full of poison. And she's like, you do not condescend to me. And then Gabriel comes over and grabs her by the arm.
Yeah, so Gabriel comes over, and which is now really causing a scene. And then the ambassador comes over.
Nora Black's husband.
Yeah, and it's awkward. I like the entire time I was like, I hate everything about this.
Also, listening to Mary Jane Wells pivot into American accents for this very small moment was one of my favorite audiobook experiences of my life. I don't know why. I don't know why it hit me so hard, but I was just like, oh, this is so good. Yeah.
She's a great narrator.
Oh, God tier.
I'm pretty sure when I read these books, I think I read them on audio the first time. Because like I went through a phase where I was going through like an audiobook a day. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that this series was part of that.
Highly recommend. She's God tier narrator.
Yeah.
So while everybody's bickering, she is like, well, fuck this. I'm not helping. And so she goes to like go off to the side and find the carriage on her own. And that is when she sees Mrs. whomever, Mrs. Cobb, whatever, the printer ? Lady. And she's like, oh, hello, m'lady. I am Mrs. Cobb, as you probably recall from yesterday. And she asks her if she went to the police. Pandora doesn't know that Drago and Gabriel, like, were going to go to the police. And so she says, no, I didn't. And she says, well, there was a guy coming around and, like, asking questions today. And then she's like, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. And also, like, are you okay? Because you seem a little bit stressed. Like, is there anything I can do to help?
Something feels a little funny here, you know?
What?
She's like, something feels a little funny here, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and Mrs. Cobb is like, oh my gosh, my lady, I really like you. You've got a really good heart, and I'm sorry. And Pandora's like, sorry? And then she hears Drago scream from the other side of the pavilion and start just like pushing bitches out of the way, trying to get
Mrs.
to her.
O'Care stabs Pandora.
Right, yeah. Stabs her, and she thinks, because she's like looking at Drago at that point, she thinks that Drago has hit her to get her out of the way. And that's what like the feeling she has was. And so she's like, Dragon, why did you hit me? And then all of a sudden she's on the ground. Then Gabriel's there, and then Helen is there, and she's like, Gabriel, stop pushing me like that. That hurts. And he's like, I'm putting pressure on the wound. And she's like, wound? What's going on? I love her so much. But yeah, she gets stabbed like in the shoulder/neck, like right behind the collarbone. that's where we'll stop for today. We'll be back tomorrow with part 4. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by me, Melody Carlisle. Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by the ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. That one small action is a huge way to help the show. If you want to get in touch with us for advertising inquiries or anything else, you can email us at heavingbosomspodcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. See you tomorrow.
Are you someone who tries to drive while distracted by your phone? Someone who props it on the steering wheel, or peeks down at it for a glance, or just scrolls and scrolls? If so, you could be the next person to get into a fender bender, get a ticket, veer off the road, or even cause a crash that kills you or someone else. Enough already. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.